Hello, happy Wednesday. Gina Zimpelman here,
Mark Harris.
and we are with Truth and Love Ministry. If this is your first time tuning in with us, we do a weekly Wednesday witnessing tip, and so here we are with this week's tip.
Gina, have you filled out your bracket yet?
I have not.
Oh,
We do a family tournament, and usually mine is, oh, I like the name of that place, and oh, I think that they're probably pretty good, and I usually end up winning.
okay.
So, how about you?
Yes, I have. I'm
Oh,
all
yeah.
set to go. But yeah, you know what? Even though there's a lot of people who aren't really basketball fans or sports fans, people this week, it's March Madness, the NCAA basketball tournament, and a lot of non-sports fans are filling out their brackets. I actually Googled it. Guess how many brackets they estimate to be filled out this year? Take a guess.
I don't know.
70 million.
What?
70
I was going to
million.
say million, and I thought that was high.
70 million brackets they estimate to be filled out this year. So, I mean, a lot of people are talking about March Madness.
Mhm.
And I bet you sometime during this week, somebody will ask you, hey, did you fill out your bracket, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's what we want to talk about, is filling out your bracket.
Okay. And how is that a witnessing
Yeah, how is that a
opportunity?
witnessing tip? Okay, this is how you use this. One of the things I always have said is you should be looking at current events in one hand and say,
Mhm.
how can I be witnessing it? Everybody's talking about March Madness this week. And what do they like, especially during the first week? What they like is upsets.
Upsets.
Yeah.
Yes. I love the upsets because those are usually my teams.
Yeah. And I actually Googled this too. Guess, one of the most famous upsets are the 12th seed in every tournament upsetting the 5th seed. Okay.
Okay.
And I actually Googled this, and since 1995, it's almost 50% of the time.
Really?
12 upsets a 5. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about,
Okay.
but since I Googled it, I had to share it. No.
I will use that knowledge while I fill out my bracket.
But what I want to talk about is, how do you do this? People, they love the upsets.
Mhm.
What's another term for upsets is when a David beats a Goliath, right? And there's kind of, maybe you see where I'm going,
Yeah.
right? The story of David and Goliath is a well-known story. It's recorded in the Bible in 1 Samuel 17. Even though it's a well-known story, however, a lot of people really don't know really the true meaning of the story. And the true meaning of the story is really captured in verses 45 to 47, when David finally comes out to Goliath. And let me just read verse 47. It says, David is talking, all those gathered here will know that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give all of you into our hands. And, in these few verses, David repeatedly talks about how it's not him, but it's the Lord.
Yeah.
And I think one of the ways that you can use this as a witnessing tip this week is, hey, David and Goliath story, talk about upsets, David and Goliath story, and then ask them, hey, do you know the story of David and Goliath? And more than likely, most people will say yes and just get into it, but do you really know what the true meaning of that story is? And I think once you get into that conversation, at least people will say, yeah, that's a good question, or
Yeah.
a lot of people won't know. And if they don't know, you don't have to, open up a Bible and read it,
Mhm.
but you can at least give them the nugget that the true story, David got his strength not in anything but from the Lord. And then you can translate that into how the Lord has given us victories. And, you can
Mhm.
use it as a witnessing. You can take it from there. But, usually one of the hardest things in witnessing is getting into the conversation.
Right.
So many people say, once I'm in the conversation, I know what to say.
Yeah.
But
You
it's
have to
getting
keep
in.
yourself from saying too much.
Yeah, right. You have to keep yourself from saying too much.
Yeah.
Taking the dump truck and dumping
Yeah.
the whole load, right? But so this is, what I'm trying to do is just say, here's one of the ways that, in a natural way, you can get into the conversation. And once you're in there, you can talk about the Lord and how he gives us victories. So if you haven't filled out your bracket, I hope you have, but really keep your ears perked this weekend for people talking about the brackets, and bring it up yourself, but also the upsets. And just try it. And I'll bet you'll be surprised at how you can have an opportunity
Mhm.
to throw out a nugget of biblical truth.
I think you're right. You know, if you do a search for David and Goliath, and you see all these quote graphics that come up, so many of them are about, you know, the Goliaths in your life are so that you can find your inner David.
Right,
And
right.
yeah, it's all on you. And so you're right. I think it's a great opportunity to share, you know, why that story is really in the Bible.
Right, yeah. And again, in the whole witnessing, you don't have to tell them everything every time. You just
Mhm.
throw out these nuggets, and hopefully then eventually they will say,
Yep.
hey, let's talk more
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
So that's our tip for the week.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing that. I will post the link to that passage, or just put the passage in the comments if you want to share that passage, or just have that for yourself. But thanks for joining us. We hope to see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.